Let's bring in my Sky News colleague, Graham Richardson. Richo, let's start on the vaccine rollout. Are you surprised the government isn't going all in with an advertising campaign here? I spoke to Jason Clare, member for Blaxland. He says that, he's represents one of the most multicultural places in the country, and he says there just needs to be more done to explain that this is very low risk and it's in people's interest to get the jab.
Yeah, I think that Jason Clare's got a particular point because ethnic groups need extra persuasion. I think they're naturally cynical, and you've got to explain to them why it's good for them and why it's good for the community. So it's never easy to do that, and I think they've really got to spend a bit more money. They've got to, I think, ramp up this campaign and make it a bit stronger. It's a good campaign. I don't think we should be criticising the government too much. They've come out with a campaign to get us all a jab, and I think that's great. But I think more effort is needed.
You've got a situation, if you look at the moment, the situation where demand is not outstripping supply. So I should say demand is outstripping supply. But when supply starts to outstrip demand, that's when I think there'll be concerns, Richo, if we hit a mark and we can't get it to that sort of 90% level, which, to be fair, most Australians and most of the inoculations we have in our medical system, we have a very high take-up rate traditionally.
Yeah, we have one of the highest in the world, and I think it'll be okay. I think that take-up rate will grow. I'm expecting it to rise, not fall. So I think, as they say in the classics, mate, it'll be all right in the end.
Yeah, well, that's certainly the Prime Minister indicating that when people see their family members and friends getting it, and when they see those numbers go up, once it gets to sort of upwards of 10 million, people might start to think, well, look, these are minuscule numbers, the cases where there are mishaps versus millions and millions that have had it without any hiccups. Do you think that in itself has an inherent momentum?
Yeah, it does. I think that gives it all a big push along. If you're watching your friends, your neighbours, your relatives, and they're all having it and having no side effects at all, just carrying on with their lives, it's very hard to keep harbouring thoughts of doom and gloom if you have the vaccine. So I think everything points to the numbers taking it going up.
And further to that, you've got the EU saying to Americans, if you've been vaccinated, feel free to come and visit. So once the world starts to reopen in a post-COVID way, not just with these bubbles like we have across the ditch, that's obviously got to affect people's thinking as well, to say, look, if we're ever going to reopen to the rest of the world, we also have to get that level of immunity.
We do. And we do have to open up again to the rest of the world. You can't isolate yourself. We're isolated enough down here at the bottom end of nowhere. So we need to make sure that we're as open as we possibly can be.
I'm surprised by this Victorian payroll surcharge, this $3 billion tax, Richo, by the Andrews government on big business, those that pay more than $10 million a year in wages. Is this the right time to be hitting a payroll tax surcharge?
Well, is there ever a right time? And the answer to that's probably no, if what your concern is jobs alone. Because it is a job killer. I don't think you can describe it any other way. And so, if you take this step, you are assuming that unemployment will rise. That is as a result of what you're doing. So you've got to hope that the rest of the economy is going to more than take up the slack. And I guess that's the calculation that Tim Pallas has made in Victoria.
You look at all the reactions to Josh Frydenberg's budget, economists saying things are still fragile. We've got this V-shaped recovery, but it is a recovery. So to whack a tax on, as particularly in Victoria of all states, which was hardest hit during the pandemic, it's quite jarring.
It's certainly tough. There's no doubt about that. It's taking a pretty solid line. and I'm not sure if I'd take it. Maybe I just don't have Pallas's courage. But as far as I'm concerned, it's a very, very difficult situation. What do you do when you've got an economy that's really slack and not providing government with the kind of revenues they need to maintain the programs that we all expect them to maintain? If they can't get more money, what do they do? And the answer has always been and always will be another tax.
Richo, thanks. Talk to you soon.
Good on you, mate.